I am a grown-ass woman. I should not fear wearing a white shirt. Hello there, welcome back to the June May channel. My name is Paula Jean. Haven't been on here in a minute, got caught up in some other life stuff, but I am glad to be back. Folks, I am messy. I'm clean, but I am messy. My hair is usually messy. My creative process is always messy. And try as I might, I cannot cook or eat or drink or go about my business in the world without somehow spilling something on myself. And it's usually in the most conspicuous spot, like right in the center of my chest or something. And for this reason, I usually avoid wearing white tops, which is sad for me because I really love the way that white tops, white shirts, white dresses look on other people, particularly in the summer. So I have decided to conquer my fear of that. Several years ago, I got a really great deal, too good to pass up, on a couple different weights of white linen. So one was about a 3.5 ounce, the other is about a 6 ounce. And to be honest, originally I thought I was going to be dyeing it. But then a couple of summers ago, I decided to make myself a pair of white linen pants, which I absolutely love. They are super comfortable. I don't wear them as often as I would like to because I have been wanting to make a coordinating vest to go with it just because I really love that look. But because I couldn't decide between two different vest patterns and I had quite a healthy chunk left over, I decided to make 2 of them. And then with the lighter weight linen, I thought, okay, well, let's go big or go home on the white linen front and go ahead and make myself my very first white linen button-up shirt. And I had a very intriguing experience making this particular blouse. But before I get ahead of myself, let me show you the vests. For the first one, I used the Birch vest pattern by Pattern Scout. This is a really great pattern. I think it's a really good one for beginners, especially because it has princess seams in the front and the back. It's got a center back seam, and with all of that seaming, it makes it easier to fit. At least that's my sewing experience. And you also have options for how to finish like all of the neckline and edges and armholes. So you can fully line it, and because you can fully line it, you can make it reversible, which is what I did on my original version. I was a tester for this when Casey came out with the pattern several years ago, and so I made mine reversible. You can also use facings because she supplies facing patterns as well if you just want to go simple and finish it that way. And like all of her patterns, it comes in bust cup sizes, in all sizes, and I always think that that is a bonus. So I had already done all the fitting on the pattern that I needed to. The only thing I wanted to change was the neckline. I wanted a slightly more V neckline, and I wanted to keep a little bit of the curve, but I just made that point at the bottom a little sharper. Because I knew my other vest was going to be a little fancier, I decided to make this one a little bit more on the casual side, and I did that by doing some contrast top stitching just on either side of the seam and around the edges of the neckline and armholes, and nothing too crazy. I just did a tan, and I kind of wish I would have had a thicker thread or doubled up my thread or something so it would be more noticeable, but I still like how it turned out. I also went with brown coconut shell buttons on the front, which gives it kind of a summery feel. I think this looks great with the white pants. It also coordinates with a lot of my go-to summer skirts. And I really love how it looks just thrown over like one of my favorite t-shirts that's kind of ratty, but the vest makes it look not quite so ratty. And I also really like it over blouses. So that is vest number 1. Oh my God, it's so hot. My husband got turned on to these great little rechargeable fans. I'll leave a link to them down below, but they are so helpful. You can flatten them out and set them on something, but they also have this great handle and you can just like stick it in front of your face. For the second one, I chose the Jewels vest pattern by Vicky Sews. This also has princess seaming in the front, but it has a halter neckline, so it's open in the back. And the photo shows it being fairly low cut, and the muslin that I made absolutely confirmed that. I am not afraid of sexy neckline, but this was a little bit low for me, mostly because I don't really have a bra that is conducive to wearing under this, unless I wanted the bra to show, which is not really the look that I was going for with this garment. So I decided to raise the center front about 2.5 inches. Other fitting adjustments I needed to make were just under the arm. I needed to pinch out a bit, and I took out a little bit of length along the front princess seam around the bust line there. But I didn't have to do an FBA, so that was nice. This pattern is rated as an intermediate sewing pattern, and I have to say that this project, I think, made me a better sewist, mostly because of that halter neckline. So this is a fully lined vest and would also look great in suiting fabrics, by the way. But that little halter neckline, which is fitted and not adjustable, getting the lining, you do kind of this interesting burrito style finishing, and I had to keep referring back to the instructions, look at the photo, look at what I was doing, and I had very little confidence that this was going to turn out the way that it was supposed to. But then I had that moment of like pulling it all out, and it all looked great, and I felt like a wizard. But I really did have to double down on that trust the process mantra. I wanted a really clean and simple look for this, so I didn't do any top stitching. And I found in my button stash these beautiful real mother of pearl buttons that I think were just perfect for this. So it adds just a little bit of shimmer. There's that little bit of change in color that happens with the light that's so nice. And I think they were the perfect thing for this vest. In case I forgot to mention it, I did use the heavier weight linen for the shell of both vests, which I weft interfaced, and then I used the lighter weight linen to line both of them. And speaking of the lighter weight linen, that is what I used to make my button-up blouse. And if you enjoyed that slick little segue, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit that little notification bell, and you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video on my charmingly irregular schedule. So I love the look of a simple, classic white button-up shirt on other people. I think it looks easy and effortless and elegant. And yet on me, whenever I put on a classic white button-up shirt, I look clinical and corporate and like I am wearing somebody else's clothes. Rather than go that route, I decided to use the Marlena blouse pattern from Charm Patterns from their Patreon collection. And I had such an interesting experience with this. This is a 40s style blouse with a convertible or camp style collar. The collar itself is a little bit more extended, gives it a little bit more of that vintage look. It comes in a short and long sleeve version. Both sleeves have gathers at the cap and the cuff. And it also has gathers at the front and back yoke. And it's got these gorgeous pleats in the front and the back. So it gives this lovely shape when you're wearing it untucked, but also when you tuck it in, it's all smooth under the waistband. You don't have all that bunching of fabric in your pants or your skirt, but you also get that beautiful blousing effect above the waist. So I fell in love with this pattern, and it's made for drapier fabrics like a rayon challis or a silk or a chiffon or something like that. But I really did want to use this lighter weight linen, which has a little bit more structure than those recommended fabrics, but I thought it might work well. When I made the muslin, there was a certain feeling I got with it. Like I just felt sort of empowered struck by it. But then when I looked in the mirror, I saw this, lovely, feminine, soft looking blouse. And the way that I felt in it didn't really comport with the softness that I was seeing in the mirror. And I just had this aha moment of how, even though I am wholeheartedly a person who thinks that anybody should be able to wear anything that expresses who they are or how they're feeling, I still have in my brain these niggly, outdated ideas that dressing powerfully has to skew masculine. Like it has to be more structured. It has to be harder lines or boxier fits or, just those things that tend to skew masculine. And it's one of the things that I find in the gender neutral patterns and styles that are out there. They're always very boxy, they're unadorned, they're loose fitting. And that has never really made sense to me because I'm like, well, why can't ruffles and gathers also be gender neutral? That's kind of another story. I'm not going to get into that here. But that's just kind of the things that I think about. And feeling the way that I felt in this blouse, feeling so empowered, it made me go back and watch the Crowdcast. So if you're not familiar with how the Charm Patreon works, they put out a new pattern every month. And later in the month, Gertie does a Crowdcast, which is sort of a Zoom type presentation about her inspiration and design process. So this blouse was named after Marlene Dietrich. And, she famously wore glamorous gowns, but she also wore pants at a time that it was very frowned upon for women to do that. But when I watched the Crowdcast to get a little bit more information about the design, she went into the history and career trajectory of Marlene Dietrich, and also her personal politics and her progressiveness and the extent to which she was very gender bending in the way that she dressed, to the point where she almost got arrested at one point. So it all made sense why I was feeling all of that in this design that was inspired by her, despite how soft and lovely the design is. So I thought that was really cool. So again, 0 adjustments needed, and I think this looks fantastic in white linen. It looks good out, it looks good tucked in. I also like it tied up with the sleeves rolled up. It gives it a really summery look, in my opinion. The only little changes I made construction-wise were to add a little slit at the side seams. That's just a personal thing. I always find that blouses that have that little slit, it makes it look more intentional, that it is meant to be worn untucked. I finished it on the inside with just some straight grain bias tape. And then the construction is supposed to be just, plain seams. I decided to do French seams on the side seams and the underarm seam, but for the sleeves, because there's all that gathering and stuff in there, I just finished that with a serger. This might be a bit fancy for some people's idea of a classic white linen shirt, but this style does feel like my white linen shirt. Now all I have to do is spill something on it and it will be truly mine. Thank you for joining me in my little white linen wonderland. I hope you're having a lovely start to your summer. As always, take great care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one.